I think a lot of people think when you go to a poor country that you're going to see a lot of crazy stuff.
It's not too bad. It really isn't too bad.
You still have the common stuff, but it's just kind of gone out of control a little bit because of the lack of the primary care and the follow-up care that they get.
It felt like when I got here, I was prepared for life in Africa and people living on a daily basis, but I wasn't prepared for sickness in Africa. If you leave and come back, I think every time it will shock you or surprise you.
The lady I just saw drove 8 hours to get here. And so we're going to give her our best.
Hardest thing is the dusty roads because the air conditioner broke down on the bus, so we can't open the windows, it gets too dusty, and the air gets too hot. But besides that, looks like we're doing all right.
We're on the road to MSUToday, so I'm not sure exactly where we are.
10,000 feet, buddy.
Some village, but glad to be off the bus for a little bit, for sure.
Yeah.
We're almost at 10,000 feet. Our destination is MSUToday, and I really don't know much longer it's going to take, but I'm sure it's going to get bumpier.
I've never really felt like I've traveled this far before. It took a long time to get here.
How's a banana?
It does taste like an apple.
What is it? Tastes like an apple?
Yeah, they're called apple bananas.
Yeah, they're called apple bananas.
They're delicious.
Really?
It's a little bit of a tough ride up. This year we took a detour. We normally don't, and a few people got sick, but we'll be all right.
We've had our share of gastrointestinal maladies and long, bumpy bus rides, and sometimes with a perilous look down.
The traveling was longer than I expected. It was a long travel from the flight to the different bus rides. It's been a tough road to get here, I'll say that.
Well, we just arrived at the Rotary Clinic in MSUToday where we'll be spending the next 5 days delivering healthcare services.
Hey guys, watch out, anybody.
We brought all the medications in, bringing them in our suitcases from the United States, and we will be unpacking them and organizing the pharmacy this afternoon.
They explode on impact.
No, they don't.
So that we could be ready for the patients when they arrive at 8 a.m. tomorrow.
You can just take these from me right now. You can just drop them.
Yep, go for it.
We came a long ways, and we've had a great time the first few days learning about Peru. But this is why we're here. And it's really a privilege to be here.
Do you get more eye drops? Whoops. I'll just drop them here for now.
They'll actually be arriving about 7 a.m. or earlier, but we'll open the clinic at 8 a.m. and start seeing our patients.
So when we first got here, we had a lot of suitcases. We broke it all apart and then put it all on the shelves.
Very exciting. It's even more exciting tomorrow morning when you arrive and you see the lines of patients waiting to be seen. Right now, I'm going to go in the pharmacy and take about 20 suitcases out of the pharmacy. So we can get in there and start loading the shelves with our drugs and medications and supplies.
Well, we woke up at 7 a.m. Everyone had to have breakfast. We had to be here at 8 a.m. sharp, which meant we were all here about 7:40, setting up the clinic, getting ready. Docs kind of calming everyone down. For the rest of the group, it's their first time here, so everyone's a little anxious and nervous, and they've just completed their first year of medical school. And looking back, when I was in their shoes, I was nervous too. So it's always fun to see how they're growing, even within 4 hours, where they're taking patients or zipping people around. We try to see 150 patients a day, and after that, we see any overflow. But people will come and they'll stand out there for 8 hours, 10 hours. Some will stay overnight, waiting to hopefully be seen the next day. And that's the hardest part, is making sure that we see them all.
I let them observe as much as possible and learn as much on their own, but where there are important differences in the system and in the delivery of health care that they may not yet know, I certainly intervene and bring that to their attention.
Depending upon where you go, they don't have access to medicine, and it's different than access to medicine in the United States. A lot of times the access to medicine in the United States is because people can't afford it, and it's still like that in international places, but it's also because there's not enough
doctors to take care of people there, or they just don't exist. So it's good to get out to those places where they don't exist, and people can be seen at least, once a year or a few times a year, or missions go there multiple times a year.
It's been crazy, but it's been so much fun, and I've learned so much already, and it's only been a day and a half.
People are always anxious to get in, and that is the toughest part that we face. Is we give out tickets. We work with the Rotarian groups that do radio and also TV to get out to the local groups and find people in need. And we had people that would come from even 8 hours away, hop on buses that took 5 hours. This kid that was under 10 years old that hopped on a bus by himself for 5 hours to get here. So we try not to turn those people away.
Gracias. I had a little 7-year-old yesterday who lived 8 hours from here. He came with his dad, and he came in with a pulse ox of 55, which means that he is pretty severely hypoxic. He's not getting enough oxygen, and it's not just from being at altitude because he lives here. So he actually has a congenital heart defect, and in the United States, it would have been repaired many, many years ago. It's something that he might eventually die from, but right now we got him. We did an ultrasound on his heart to make sure it was working properly. We got him sent into town to have a referral for cardiology, and hopefully he can get checked out while he's here because it's pretty severe, but he's a sick little boy.
3 veces al día. No dolor, no fiebre, no necesitas. ¿Entiendo?
Crazy because there's so many patients, and there's just people everywhere running all the time.
Pico mucho? Sí, pica mucho.
I heard about the trip from an older student, and it just sounded amazing. I've always wanted to do mission work. I have a little background in Spanish, so it sounded like the perfect opportunity.
I've seen this have significant changes in my students. I've been doing it for now 12 years, only 3 here in this area, Peru. But over the past 12 years, I have seen students make significant career choices to go into primary care, to seek a career in providing healthcare services abroad.
I think for me personally, I really want to do international work when I become a doctor. So to me, it's really important to understand how to communicate with the population and what their needs are.
They want citriac.
Yeah, we don't have ceftriaxone here, but what we do have is we have norfloxacin.
And it's frustrating at times because you want to be able to give them the best medical care you can. And there have already been some times where I've heard doctors say, well, in the States we do this, but we don't have it here.
Students frequently ask, well, how can I do this? I don't have an X-ray machine. And I tell them to use their senses, their sight, their touch. And by the time we leave here, they'll realize that you don't necessarily need an X-ray to diagnose a condition and certain conditions and whatnot. And they have a lot more knowledge and training that you don't always have to rely on the most up-to-date tests, most expensive tests, because clearly in Trujillo and in Huamachuco, where we don't even have X-rays, we won't get that.
But at least we have something, and we're helping in some small way, and that's what matters to me.
It makes me definitely want to do more international.
It's a great experience. When I first started doing missions, my daughter was 16, and it was a great experience for her. She thought at that point she wanted to go into medicine, so I wanted to bring her out so she could see what the real world was like, not what we have in the States. Sometimes it's a little bit protected.
I think it's important because, one, Americans have to realize how spoiled they are, and then also it's really important to see tons of different diseases, and it's really important, I think, to help populations that might not have the resources that we have the time and the money to provide for them. I think it's really important to reach out that way.
I'm a student advisor, class of 2013, so I'm a third-year medical student. Today we're just doing some water quality testing throughout Huamachuco and some of the surrounding areas. Last year we looked at minerals. This year we're trying to see if there are some of the parasites and bacteria that are in their water and see if there's like a quick fix that we can do, just improve quality, and working with some of the other departments at MSU. Just to maybe change a pore size or just the way they process the water, just so that they're not always getting sick. And we're doing a little bit more than just visiting, we're doing prevention.
So we're north of the town. This is basically the river that runs through the town. They get their water from here before they process it. So the first stop is this reservoir. We're gonna get some water samples. The next stop will be the processing plant. Yeah, so the end process is down through this hole. I'm going to go down some stairs and basically get through the running water and hopefully not fall in. So.
And it's just a what down there?
It just looks like a small stream. It looks pretty deep. So this is, I guess this is the process we have to do to get this. So it'll be fun. Because I believe like the cornerstone of basically osteopathic medicine is prevention. And if they approached us last year, and if it was something that's, I investigated it and looked into it, and if it's something we can do and fix, then we're gonna do it.
Why is the work that you're doing here so important right off the bat?
Well, malaria is a major cause of both morbidity, sickness, and mortality, death in Malawi. A third of hospital admissions are related to malaria, and about a third of the deaths. So it's an extremely common cause of both illness and death.
This is a happy place. Malawi has got 14 million people. And to all those 14 million people, when they are sick with a condition which is serious, this is the place to be sorted out.
Good. And then we can do the 4 finger prick samples.
So if you look at 14 million people, and all we have are about 1,000 or so beds, in this place, most people actually walk out alive. To us, that's happiness, a lot of happiness.
So I first came to Malawi in 1999 as a student. Really enjoyed my time here. Met Terry at that point, Terry Taylor, and kept up contact with her after that. And then when I was searching around in 2004 for a career, a quote-unquote career, I contacted her, and 2004 was the first time I came out here as a volunteer for 6 months to see how I liked it, whether I would fit in with the program there. And I've been coming back ever since. 6 months of every year, just like Terry does.
Oh gosh, let's see, the first malaria season was 1986, 87. So we're coming up on 25 years. And had I known, I might have bought a house instead of renting all this time. But the reason to come was because the Ministry of Health identified this as a problem, severe malaria in children, and the circumstances were very auspicious to be able to start a project in a setting where a medical school was imminent. The reason to stay is because one set of questions has led on to another set of questions, to another set of questions, and we've been able to develop a series of collaborations with Malawians. And when we started, there were 2 Malawian doctors in the country, and now we have a host of graduates from the medical school. So it really becomes a national undertaking rather than a question that a few outsiders have come in to look at. She looked like a quiet, usual malaria patient and suddenly stopped breathing.
This building houses the only magnetic resonance imaging unit in this part of Africa. It came mainly to support malaria research in trying to find out why children with cerebral malaria die. This came about because we observed for a long time that when you give the same treatment to 2 kids with cerebral malaria, one recovers, the other one doesn't. Sometimes the one who recovers will have had the disease process for a shorter period than the one who does not recover. So you need to find out what's the difference between the ones that die and the ones that recover.
So we'll have to see. We were wondering about, there wouldn't have been time to do a second image.
The next closest will be in Harare. That's about an hour's flight away. Not only a flight away, but it's very expensive for somebody to afford it. Now with this MRI, we have a lot of people who, I need to say, would have died or would have ended up on a wheelchair. But when they come here, those problems are sorted out and they come back home alive or walking, and they avoid both death and a wheelchair because of the services that we have now.
as I understand it, you're treating malaria here, but you're also researching it. How does that dovetail and blend together?
Well, much remains to be learned about the pathogenesis of malaria, actually how the malaria parasite kills children that it infects. And the best way to do that is to make very careful clinical observations of the children. The best way to do that is to provide care.
So I always knew I wanted to do international health in some way. I'm an MD PhD, so I have both the MD and the PhD. And I really couldn't find a good mix of the two. Right after I graduated, I did a short stint of pure clinical. Didn't like it at all. Quit that very quickly. Then I did 6 years of pure research, bench research into malaria at the NIH. And I enjoyed that, but it is such a delayed gratification. There's no immediate gratification in that at all. Whereas here, I mean, this is immediate gratification. I mean, that may sound rather selfish in some ways, but I mean, you feel like you're needed here and you feel like you're doing something that has an impact.
So we provide the care, we make very careful observations, and then we collect samples from the patients. We collect samples of the parasites, we look at the MRI images, we do electroencephalographic tracings to look at brain activity, we look into their eyes. They're the best characterized cerebral malaria patients on the planet, probably. And we try to tie all of that together to work out how the parasite is wreaking havoc.
Typical day here, yeah, it's a little slower today actually. We've had probably, we had up to 80 patients in this room in some of the past days. It's thinned out a little bit. We probably have 10 or 15 fewer than we have in past days, so this is actually kind of a slow day here.
I think you have more compassion for and more empathy for what people are experiencing, and here we see the patients who are incredibly ill, and we don't always see that in the United States. People aren't quite as sick or aren't able to cope with as many problems as people here.
It's hard because if you were to take home everything that happens here and think about it all night, I'd get zero sleep. You'd be a wreck. So you kind of learn to compartmentalize what you see in the hospital and then go home and kind of not forget it, because you can never forget something like this, but you do have to push it aside a little bit in your brain just to make it through the rest of your day.
I had seen a lot of the photographs that Terry had shown us, and that kind of helped me prepare, but until you see it in a full-blown scale, it's not the same. I really didn't know the extreme level of, or different level of healthcare that they have here. It's very different. I wasn't prepared.
So I think in those regards, you have more empathy for people, and you really try to do everything you can to help them out.
It's been a lot to take in just because it's on such a huge level. If it was just one or two people who seem to be suffering, it'd be a lot different. But because you just see it patient after patient after patient, and then you see people out on the streets who haven't even made it to the hospital, it's a lot to take in.
As an experience, it was a wonderful experience, both medically and personally.
The Rotary Club of Huamachuco works very closely with us, and they've been very good about getting into the distant areas so that we could really get to people that need our help.
Do you think people in the States, do you think they get Africa?
I don't think so. I mean, I know my own family doesn't, even my own mom. I mean, I've been here before, and every time I try to explain it to her, it's just a very foreign concept.
Efectivamente está contenta las personas porque el apoyo está llegando a la gente que realmente lo necesita.
Well, obviously it's a beautiful, beautiful continent. There's a lot of beautiful things about it, but it's been hard to put into words in the hospital how difficult it is to see this and to take it in, and the amount of sympathy and empathy you have for these people. It's hard to say that and say I'm still glad I came, even though this is what I'm seeing.
You kind of logically know what Africa's about, but you don't actually get Africa, I don't think, till you're there. At least I didn't. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I know I didn't.
even though this is still a growing city in a way, that there's still some lack of resources when it comes to medicine, and a lot of the problems we won't really see in the States because we'd never let a certain condition like this get out of control. And so it's been great when these families come in and they're just like, don't know what they have, and it's really something very simple, and you can reassure them that it's treatable and that we have stuff here that can treat them, and they're just so thankful to just, one, know what's even wrong, and then two, that they can get help.
You have to remember why we're here. We're here to help people. We're here to practice our craft, and I mean, yeah, the bus rides are tough, and sometimes the food isn't the best, and you know, we all have a little indigestion, but you get over it. I mean, that's what we're here to do. I mean, we're supposed to be healers, so that's what we're here to do.